the year.
Please welcome.
Please welcome.
Ryan Lewis.
It depends on what my goal is to make. If I don't have something I'm trying to do, sometimes it could be Ben has a song in mind and now I'm trying to figure it out and make a production that matches whatever he's doing. Or sometimes it's just I'm gonna make beats, and if I'm just gonna make beats, I will sit down, open up Pro Tools, and I could either start with drums. I don't usually like to just all right, give me a piano, I'm about to play some crazy shit. I usually like to start with textures or drums or something that gives me a sense of a vibe that I can start on a more simple level. Unless there is something that kind of takes the place of a sample, whether that was done by a live musician or whatever, that I'm just going to build around. And I'll sort of start there and then just keep going. And oftentimes I'll end up making a whole bunch of shit that I plan to replace. Playing strings that I will get a quartet or something to play, or playing piano that sounds like Reason pianos that I'm going to try and get, once I have the vibe of the song, trying to find a piano that fits and somebody who can play better than me. And that type of thing. And now, because I've spent this year slowly kind of building a new studio in the background in between all of these shows. Now hopefully in Seattle. Hopefully I'll have a wider palette of resources in terms of where to start. When I first started producing from 2006 to 2008, I had a not huge, but a good-sized record collection. I just pressed them all looking for samples to Pro Tools. So I have these 3-year cataloged sessions of just recorded samples, from drums to stuff I didn't know was popular that was when I recorded it. But sometimes I'll go there, and even if it's just kind of you're going to use a little cut up for a percussive piece in your drums, or there's something that gives you a sense of what the BPM is going to be, and oftentimes I won't even use the samples themselves, but it's a good place to just let's start the bones of something. So yeah, first plugin I go to. Well, I use Battery for drums. Contact everybody uses Contact. I would use Contact. I really like the, I don't know if it's Arturia or Spark? Yeah, no, not Spark. Spark's dope. But I like their Jupiter. I like their ARP 2600. I like some of their emulations of old synths a lot. I like some weird shit like Reactor. Reactor's you can be I'm not even going to make music today, I'm just going to open Reactor and just fucking start. It's endless weird made-up synthesizers by random people. Or what I have, and this is a go-to sometimes when I don't really, when nothing is really coming together, I have 3 years worth of samples that I will open sometimes when, it's a great thing actually for a laptop and headphones on the road, when you just have a dinky ass little keyboard and you're just trying to get the creative juices flowing. It usually starts with I email Ben something random and have some type of huge disclaimer. This is unmixed. I did this. I was kind of drunk last night. Whatever. Say anything I can say that if he thinks it's whack, he won't think I'm whack. And sometimes if he likes it, the only way that I know that he'll actually like it is if he says, "You'll send me a loop of that," because then I know that he actually is interested in writing to it. So going back to Ben walking into a session, typically the sessions are too big to add now, 40, 50 takes of somebody recording vocals on top of it. So I'll export out a number of 2 tracks in which I'm going to bring them into a new session, set up the tempo, and make 80 audio channels that are blank. And I'm going to start recording and just pulling down takes and writing notes on every single take that goes up. And he's somebody that scrutinizes the shit out of his own performance, and that he'll spend 5 hours on a verse and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. So typically that's how we record, and then we'll spend a long time going through takes and figuring out pieces that we like, ways that he said things, to make it as a whole. Then I'll take it back to the actual beat session, make a new session now that has his vocals, and I love mixing so much. The first thing I will do is just spend hours mixing his vocal to that track, and then I will start reshaping everything that I've done to go along with his vocal performance. He's somebody that has rises and falls. He's not just this flat line. A 16 is going to feel the same in, bars 5 through 7 as it's going to feel later down the timeline. So I'm somebody that will go in and figure out what the music is going to need to do in order to enhance his verse, so that they really work together. And then I'll send that to him and go back and mix it again 45,000 times. Well, the good thing is that from the jump, we creatively like a lot of the same stuff, and we're totally different people. But I don't think we would be creative partners if there wasn't a lot of stuff that we both think is fresh. We communicate really well. I think that you have an openness to somebody else's perspective, and you also got to have a little bit of humility to be able to take it when somebody's like, that snare doesn't fit, your kick isn't hitting, you keep making, these sub 808s that nobody can fucking hear on laptops, like, whatever. You can go down the list of ways that you can be critical of beats. And the good thing is that he made beats for a long time, good beats too. I learned some from him, for sure, in terms of, he was an MPC dude, so he came from a different, field of thought in beat making. But he's somebody that, like, the input he has for beats is very credible. Like, he's usually saying things that make a lot of sense. And he has a good ear for mixing, too. He mixed his whole first album, The Language of My World, by himself. Like a 2-day all-nighter. And then on the flip side, I think that, I've never been a poet, I'm not really a writer, but I think I'm somebody who's good at criticizing the shit out of rap verses. I'm good at hearing the influences that somebody was pulling in writing their new rap verse and where those might have come from and X, Y, Z. And then I think the most important job for me on that flip side of being critical of him would be how does his verse make me feel? What is my experience? I'm the first person who experiences for the first time what a song like Same Love feels like, or a song like Starting Over feels like. And that is what I probably weigh in the most, is that if I walk away and I go, I just didn't feel a ton from that, and it was a song that was trying to make you feel something, then that says something. And if it's a song that maybe, the recording's not perfect or whatever, you can go through the list of variables, but I felt something really strong, then I'm gonna fight for that shit, and I'm gonna be like, this is really good. And when you hit that part, that was really good. Or these 4 bars in your verse, that shit's catchy as fuck. Let's make that the hook. Irish Celebration was originally in the verse, and you flip it over to the chorus. It was too repeatable sounding to it. It's the vibe, yeah. So I think that in the endless sessions that you end up doing with this person, recording, mixing, that you just learn it. You learn the other person. You learn how to communicate, how to be respectful, how to be opinionated in the right way. And that it doesn't stop with the music. It will carry over into conversations about fonts and color grading and shots that you really want in the music video that maybe the other person doesn't, or vice versa, and press photos and whatever. It is endless. So if you don't get along with this person, we just wouldn't have lasted very long. You know what I mean? But we like a ton of different stuff too. And I think that in that area, I mean, you need that too in order to be good collaborators when one person's taste is different than the other, and you're debating for it. But also, you know, I have my personality and all the things that I do, and Ben has his personality and all the things that he does. Like I wasn't walking in going, Raven Bowie's a bad idea. You're getting in, you know, a British cape costume and a wig, and like that is just so, it's so Ben, you know what I mean, to do these costumes and do crazy shit and show up to the MTV Movie Awards and fucking crazy royal blue thing with a cape on and tassels and shit. It's just kind of, you know, that is a lot of his creativity goes into those types of things, and that's not my creativity, you know what I mean? But it's things that I think are awesome. It's the reason why I collaborate with him is he has a whole field of creativity that's different than mine. I have a whole field that's different than his. So, yeah, absolutely, and not bound to the world of hip hop either. I think that it's been interesting to get to make records that got really, really big, and then I don't know. I'm not an obvious producer for a lot of different genres. In the hip hop world, I mean, as you said, I'm not like your beatsmith. I don't like Just Blaze has Just Blaze's sound. Dr. Dre has a Dr. Dre sound. All these people have, oh, that sounds like a Timbo beat. Oh, that sounds like a Kanye beat. XYZ. I don't think that I'm in that lane of my own hip hop beat sound that is mine. And then I also don't think that I'm strictly not that. Like, you know, I have this sound that caters towards the indie rock bands or the whatever. So I think where that leaves me in terms of collaborating with other people is that I don't think it's obvious for a lot of people that are familiar with the work I've done and stuff to hit me up. Like if you're an indie band, at the end of the day, I'm a hip hop producer. If you're a hip hop dude, at the end of the day, I'm not like a beat guy where it's like, send me your beat CD. Like, so that's been interesting. So some people have inquired for sure, but it's been random in terms of like the widespread different types of groups or people. I'm not gonna say who until I actually do one of them, which time hasn't permitted even me to work on music with Ben very well. So I think in the grand scheme of things, both Ben and I are totally interested in collaborating elsewhere, and then also within our own music, doing some interesting collaborations elsewhere, bringing in. So in terms of what I would love to do, a whole bunch, I mean, tons of genres. I would love to do some shit that is absolutely nothing like what I'm doing right now. And then I would also love to just make another sophomore, hip-hop album that is great. Sophomore albums are maybe one of the hardest things, I think, for most artists. I think so much, if you have a successful freshman release, so much new stuff comes with you into the studio going to make another record. So much life has changed. And I'm determined to honestly take our time, live a little bit of life, and make a really good second record. I've been a huge Kanye fan. He's been for I think a lot of people, if you look at the last, 6, 7, 8 years, he's been that person that has remained fascinating in terms of the wide palette of work that he's done. I mean, you can just go, you pop in College Dropout, you pop in Graduation, you're just like, fuck, dude, like this album just has cuts on cuts on cuts. He's somebody that is few and far between, that challenges him. It's almost like somebody who's just genuinely dissatisfied with himself if he ends up making something anywhere similar to what he made last time. That the art and the innovation is just key and central to him going back and redefining what the hip-hop beat is going to sound like for 2014, 15, 16. Somebody who changes the game. Somebody who is super particular in terms of mixing. When you look at a song like Stronger and it got remixed like 14 times till it got to the point where it's like, okay, the mixing is not going to change the kick drum. That's the piece that's kind of bothering me. And he goes to Timbo, and Timbo opens up his 55,000 drums and finds the right one. Like, He's somebody that has inspired me both on just how much I've enjoyed his music, as well as the integrity he has as just being a real artist in the midst of an industry that it's hard to figure out how to be that sometimes. Other people in the hip hop world that I've loved, if you go back a few years, Timbo's obviously a classic. Just Blaze, you brought up earlier. These are all people that, more than anything, probably influenced me on drums. That they all have their drum sound, and it's been interesting for these long-lasting producers to see how they enter in. 2013, 2012, you switch gears so heavily into trap beats, to southern-sounding beats, to a very select BPM, maybe ranging 6 dB one way or the other. And to see people that made classics 5-6 years ago, and can you go in and enter into the current popular sound and adapt your own style to it, and to see what these different producers have done. To look at Magna Carta, Timbo. Shout out to Boy Wonder. He's fucking great. He's made some fucking great records. Hit Boy is obviously consistently coming with just like, fuck, that's fucking great. So in the world of hip hop, those are, not necessarily avant-garde. I mean, those are pretty popular go-tos, but very influential for sure. And then you have other types of music, which, when you look at all the other pieces that aren't drums, is where I probably grab the most inspiration in terms of texture and mixing. I've listened to a lot of indie, things that would follow under the umbrella of indie records. To me, what makes an indie record is mixing more than anything, which is funny to me. But I think you could take a pop artist and make them an indie artist overnight by just remixing their record. That's where I would draw a ton of inspiration for, how I want a piano to sound, the value of having a pop record sound gritty, X, Y, and Z. So people in that category, bands that I love, Sufjan Stevens, Arcade Fire, Beirut. Yeah, I could just keep going.